Another file. Okay, so continuing along here. This one's called overwriting, it says. Oil, grease, pencil on clayboard. So what was your process here? This one has like a number of layers.
Yeah.
They're kind of translucent, right?
Yes, and this has sort of flipped the process over because I've done other pieces with small shapes or scribbling all over and then paint and then sort of coming in and building structure on top of that.
Yeah.
So here, if you can see, there's the bigger shapes are underneath and then oil paint over the top of that to sort of, you know, push those back.
Mm-hmm.
And then this drawing, all this drawing on top.
Very time consuming.
It
How long would it take you to do a canvas like this?
Well, not as time consuming as some that are the more dense oil paint, but this, the thing was the drawing on top had to be all done in one session because the oil paint, you know, dries slowly, but it does dry. And so it would start to rip if I didn't get all the drawing done at one time. So this took, you know, the drawing on top took an entire day. And as a matter of fact, I gave myself tendinitis on this particular day.
I believe that. That's entirely credible.
Occupational hazard, yeah. It's worth it.
Yes, it is. And the result is spectacular. It's stunning.
Well, I like the way you, thank you, John. I like the way you can see into it. And I
Yeah,
think
and I
that's
wonder, the layers, I love
compelling.
the ghosts of the
Yeah.
earlier layers, like,
Yeah.
you know, other surfaces of inscription have come along over time and just
Yeah.
layered themselves, one on top of the next, like a different sign regime. Each one has its own semiotics and they just build on top of
Yeah.
each other. And it's wonderful how you captured that process. I mean, in many ways, your work is kind of like a visual equivalent of French postmodern philosophy, especially like Deleuze and Guattari, where they talk about in their book, A Thousand Plateaus, the rhizome. You know, they have this concept of the rhizome as opposed to the trees. The rhizome is lateral and it forms this mesh of dense roots that interconnect laterally, that goes on forever. And it has no beginning and no ending. And it becomes like this ontological model for destabilizing hierarchies, you know, that are built up on what they call the plane of organization, which is arborescent, tree-like, goes up and down. But the rhizome is always this wonderful place of deterritorialization, where an artist or a person can trace a line of flight from the realm of the plane of organization and go out into the rhizome and experience this incredible dense meshwork of lateral connections underneath everything. It's a wonderful idea, and I see that in your work here.
I have another piece that
Let's take a
reminds
look.
me of, yeah.
Absolutely.
Fascicle, which,
Oh, even the title.
you know what that refers to? It refers to something like the rhizome, that
Right.
is a dense mass of shrubbery and undergrowth.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it also
that's right.
refers to writing and to an iteration of a publication.
Nice.
So I'm like, that's my jam. I mean, I also am really interested in referencing writing and the idea of Asemic writing,
Yes.
which is where you have the formal qualities of writing, but not the content being clear. And that, I think in that last piece we were looking at, is also referring to that.
Yes, I've noticed that there's a lot of references to writing and the process of iteration that writing represents, taking signifiers and layering them into graphs, one way or another, into lines. You have some earlier paintings where you just capture the lines.
Yeah.
It looks like
Yeah.
writing
Yeah.
without the actual signifiers
Yeah.
of writing, like the formality of the writing process with rows of linear signifiers that capture writing as a surface of inscription that's evolved over time, you know, from clay tablets, originally pottery.
Yeah.
It transfers from pottery to the clay tablets, to papyrus scrolls, to vellum, to the printed book, and now the new surface of inscription is electronic.
Yeah.
We're writing on electrons.
Yeah,
You know,
right, that's
everything
right.
is going into hyper-modern cyberspace.
Yeah,
It's
right.
all going inside there, and I think you're capturing something about what's happening.
Something about that's really compelling
Yeah.
to me. And you know, that lineage you just described, it's not the content that is the main importance of it. It's the format,
Yes.
in a way, to me. I mean, that's what captures my attention, is the
Right.
idea of the format.
This one over here is, talk about this one. I like this. I feel some Adolf Gottlieb in here.
Ah.
It's, you know, I feel him in there. But like, what was on your mind when you did this one?
Well, you know, this line work is just really compelling, and I don't know exactly why that is. When I first started doing this line work, my husband, who's also an artist, was like, "Really? Are you feeling okay?" I'm like,
There might
"It's
be
so
something
fun."
mentally ill about a person who will sit down and do this. I mean, it automatically brackets their sanity.
I know, that's right. But again, it's sort of making use of compulsive nature. But this is also an exploration of the surface and what's on the surface and what's behind the surface. And the other thing I'm always kind of looking for is, where is the moment when all the individual marks coalesce into becoming a single object?
Right, yeah.
And I think that also speaks to the idea of the Asemic writing.
There's an interesting polarization here between the two, the top and the bottom half.
Yeah.
What were you thinking of in terms of that?
Well,
this is like a more pure
this is
capturing of the signifiers that are
yeah,
here,
and
that
this
you
is
can see more of the layers underneath them. And I like what you did here with these. You snuck in some color.
got really wild here for a minute.
Yeah. It's almost like a Jackson Pollock coming up and putting the paint stick on. Throw a couple of curves in there, and it's nice. I like that.
Yeah, well, that's my
really livens up the whole.
That's my big left turn right there.
Well, like in terms of the binarity.
Yeah, well, one thing also that's really interesting to me, especially since I've been obsessed with line making, is the difference between drawing and painting.
Right.
So when am I just drawing with paint, and when am I painting? And these marks are actually Sharpie on oil paint.
Oh, really?
So those marks, and Sharpie, you can't go back and change it.
Right.
So
yeah.
this is a kind of like a writing project down here. This is all paint with the deeper layers and some incising in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
So, on a really practical level, my work is really just about the surface in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And people
the
like
surface
you,
of inscription.
well, it is, yeah.
And how it's modified and changed. You're dialoguing with the whole metaphysical tradition behind it.
But see,
surfaces of inscription.
I don't have to know that.
No, that's my job as a cultural. If I don't know that, I don't have a job. I'm in trouble.
Glad we got that.
No, yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
So it's called Flipside, and
Perfect.
because it feels sort of like a Rolodex or something to me, that you would flip through from side to side.
I'm curious, when you start something like this, do you already have an idea of how big it's going to be, and you've got this blank white field and you're going to fill the entire thing, or does it evolve more organically than that?
I usually have sketched out in my mind the procedures I'm going to undertake one after another. And I'm always looking for ways to mix that up a little bit, just like with the accumulation paintings. I want to take the vocabulary and continually reinvent it, to mine it, to go into it, to see what's there.
Absolutely. And I can see that going on.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. So I don't always know, but then you get a certain ways into it, having done a few of the steps that I've sort of planned, and then we have a conversation.
And the wine part of it is the actual etching into it, and the milk part is the sort of integration of everything into layers.
Yeah,
so it's
I
like
think
that
that's
dialectic.
true, John. Yeah, I think that's
okay.
right. I mean, there's the incision is the sharpness and the acidity of the wine, and then here's the milk.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yeah, it's a wonderful dialectic. Oh,
let's talk about that one.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.